Hello, my name is Kayla and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be showing you guys how I did this makeup look here and talking about my favorite books so far of this year. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you aren't already to see what future content I have in store. Okay, so first up, we are gonna go ahead and prime with the primer that I've been loving for a while now. And that is the Essence Prime Studio Primer. It is hella cheap and really nice. Is it gonna focus? Who knows? Ooh. I did also put on an SPF before my makeup, so I feel like I look a little bit white casted. I'm trying out a new SPF moisturizer. Just trying to take better care of my skin. I might show some skincare favorites later if I have time. So yeah, this is the Essence Prime Studio Skin Refreshing Primer. It's like $5 and I really like it. Gotta get back into the swing of things because I have not made a video in a while, and that is because I have been insanely busy and I felt inspired today. That's all I can really say. It is beautiful outside today, and that is good because the past week, I live in Alabama, has been super stormy. It is tornado season in the South, so what I like about this primer is I feel like it does help my makeup last pretty long, but mainly it's like moisturizing but also kind of grippy, so you get like a couple of different benefits out of it, and like it's super affordable. Also, I'm a sparkling water fiend now. I've been like this for a while after I stopped drinking soda. It gives me that like the fizz, you know, the carbonation that I crave, but it has no sugar and it's just water, so it's good for you. But I mainly use the Good & Gather brand, which is just from Target. So next we're gonna go in with our tinted moisturizer, which is from ColourPop. This is my go-to, also my favorite like lightweight foundation right now, and it is a tinted moisturizer. Anything from this Pretty Fresh line is like my favorite. I've been talking about it for a long time, if you've been on this channel for a little bit. It's really awesome because it's super lightweight and it gives you good coverage still. Like it's not anything crazy, like you're not gonna get completely full from it, but it's still good. Alrighty, so I am also gonna talk about books today because I have read 24 books so far this year, which is a lot, I recognize. I was talking to my friend today and she was like, oh, well, you know, I don't know how you do it because, you know, who has the time, who's crazy like me and can read that much in a short span of time. But if you are on Bookstagram, people can read even faster than that. Like it's not as surprising as you would think. But I just want people to not feel like even if you're only reading like a book a month, or even just like one book, like whatever pace you read at is totally fine. And like don't let seeing other people read a ton discourage you from trying, because like I'm about to get so cheesy and we just started the video, but like reading it's magical and like it's for you. Like not everybody's gonna like the same things, not everybody's gonna read at the same pace or have the same experience, but like reading makes me feel like a kid again, and I love learning, and like I use it for escapism, so like that's why I like fantasy and like things like that, but I also use it for educational purposes. Like I've learned so much about different perspectives and different things that I wouldn't normally know about, all from reading. So basically, moral of the story is don't get discouraged if you see like people doing crazy stuff like reading 100 and something books a year, because I get it. Like it can be discouraging, especially if like you're just trying to find the time to read like a little bit at a time. I will say audiobooks has like changed my life in the most dramatic way possible, but like I also have ADHD and so I can't always focus. I'm mainly hyper focused though, like my ADHD causes me to like hone in on something, and so that's how I also am able to read so much. Okay, so I finished putting on my tinted moisturizer and looking a little bit bright, but we're gonna even it out later on, no worries. So I'm gonna go in next with the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. This is one that I used to use a lot. Kind of stopped using it for a while because I just started using a lot of concealers I liked better. But this one's very tried and true, and it really does hydrate your under eye, which my skin's really dry right now, so I could always use a little bit of hydration. But I want to kind of talk through some of my favorite books so far this year. So I can't remember, I don't think I've talked about this yet, but I have officially finished all of Sarah J. Maas's books, and I have mixed feelings about it. I'm sad, going through all the stages of grief at this point. It's exciting to be finished and say like I've read all of her works, but it is also sad because she's one of my favorite authors at this point, and I love all of her books. Read The Court of Thorns and Roses first, and then I read Throne of Glass, then I read The Crescent City, 2 books, which by the way, very excited for the 3rd one to come out, can't wait. That got announced recently, and it comes out in next January, which is kind of a long time, but whatever. Alrighty, so I still haven't found like a loose powder that's like my favorite, but I do really enjoy the CoverGirl Clean Professional Loose Powder. I feel like it does a good job of just setting things in place. I really only now use loose powder underneath my eyes to just like really set everything in place. Otherwise, I use like just like a pressed powder, like something light, because again, I don't want it to look super dry or cakey or anything. But I will just go over and make sure there's no like creases underneath my eyes. Just pat everything out again. And then I will go straight in with my sponge in the powder. Get it on my sponge. And again, I use a damp sponge, and I'll place it right underneath my eyes like this and just pat it out. But yeah, I'll use it on underneath my eyes, and then just on like the main parts where I put concealer to set the concealer in place. Like a little bit on my chin, or like the spots where, even though my skin's dry, like I do have like the occasional oily spot at the end of the day. And I don't know if you noticed, but I have my Last of Us t-shirt on with Ellie's tattoo. Last of Us, we might talk about favorite TV shows later. It's just so good, and I loved every moment of it. I got this from Etsy. I'll link the Etsy store below. They're really cool. So anyways, moving on to, I was finishing, so the 3 books that I read from Sarah J. Maas this year that I rated 5 stars were Tower of Dawn, Empire of Storms, and Kingdom of Ash. I all read this year. Kind of just wanted to go through my 5-star. I'm not going to go through every single book I've read this year, but I'm going to go through like the ones that stick out the most to me. So those 3 I read. Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn I read in tandem, which is one of the ways they recommend doing her books. I really liked doing that because Tower of Dawn was like a little bit more slow paced, and I feel like if I had read it just by itself, I might have given up. Not given up, because like I want to finish the story, but it was not near as entertaining as Empire of Storms. And then Kingdom of Ash was just like a perfect, if you see me looking at the side, I have my computer over here where I'm looking at the books. But yeah, Kingdom of Ash was a perfect ending to the series, and I couldn't have enjoyed it more. I think it's perfect. Definitely recommend picking them up. A couple other 5 stars, so Iron Widow, which I talked about in my last vlog. I was listening to the audiobook. Also, the last 3 books I just mentioned, I read physical books for. And then when I say I listen to an audiobook, I mainly do Libby. I should probably keep doing my makeup. I've also talked about this before, but I use the audiobook app Libby, which is basically where you just use your library card to get free audiobooks. So that's what I used for this one, and it's Iron Widow. And I don't know how to pronounce their name, but I'll put it on the screen. But it is really cool. It is about a main character in the, it is based in China, in Beijing, I believe is the city, because they do talk about the Great Wall of China, which is in Beijing. It's like a sci-fi. Also, I'm using the Physicians Formula, the healthy powder, to just kind of like lightly dust over the rest of my face. I'm not doing anything like super intense. But yeah, I really liked this book. I rated it 5 stars, and it's not something I would normally gravitate towards because it is more sci-fi. I don't really like sci-fi, but I'm trying to expand my genres. But yeah, I would totally recommend this if you like a strong female character perspective, and there's a lot of discussion around honor and you know, the Chinese culture, but amongst this like kind of post-apocalyptic almost like Hunger Games dystopian type thing, like Hunger Games meets, the reason I read this book is because I saw it compared to Attack on Titan, which is my favorite anime. And I could see that. I do see the resemblance. If you've played Titanfall, the game Titanfall, it also kind of has some elements of that, because essentially it talks a lot about yin and yang, and it's very spiritual, kind of tied. It's a very cool match between like spiritual and like technology, because essentially it is also very much gives like a lot of talk about around feminism and around sexism and how that is applied in this scenario. And I will say that definitely check the trigger warnings ahead of time, because there's a lot of like mentions of things that could be triggering to people. So definitely look at that. But it's very, very, very good. So you follow your main character, who essentially is seeking revenge on this guy who played a part in her sister's death. And this is not a spoiler, because like this is in the synopsis, but it's super interesting. I won't give anything else away, but basically she becomes like really cool, and these people use chi, which is like spiritual energy in Chinese culture, like specifically, to power these big, huge robot things. And it's like very action-packed. There's a lot of dynamics added in. There's a lot of talk about love and sacrifice and all kinds of really cool stuff. So check that out if any of that sounds interesting to you. But that's one of my favorite reads so far of the year. I would say it's sci-fi fantasy. I think that it kind of plays both sides equally. But anyways, I'm moving on to bronzer. This is Alamar Cosmetics, and it is the Hydrating Complexion Trio in the shade, I don't know, but it has 3 different colors: Rise and Grind, Pale Wear, and Cafe con Leche. And it's pretty cool. It has like a brightening powder and 2 different bronzers. I like to mix these 2 bronzers because one of them is a little too light and one of them is a little too dark. So I just kind of put my brush in both of them and hope for the best. So I'm also using the Alamar Cosmetics brushes. So this one that I'm using is the bronzer brush for my bronzer. I finished with the bronzer, and I'm going to move on to some blush. We are also going to use the Alamar Cosmetics. I've been a big fan of their stuff recently, and this is the Colorette Blush Trio, and it's in like Fair Light is the shade range. They have a lot of really cool options. They are Latina women owned as well. I love their stuff. So I think today I'm gonna do this lighter like peach color, and that is Apricot Aura, I think is what it's called. And I'm gonna use their blush brush to apply that, and I'm gonna do like a generous amount. I've really been loving blush lately. So moving on to next, we have All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I really enjoyed this one. It's really interesting and kind of like a different concept than I've seen before, where you are following this woman who has lost their son. He was kidnapped right out of their home, and you are like kind of following that grieving, and essentially you're hopping into the scenario like a year later, after he's been missing for a year, and her life is kind of unfolded and like unraveled. Her husband left her. Essentially she is relying on true crime and true crime viewers to help her solve the case. So she goes to like this true crime convention where she speaks, and she does this like a couple times among the time that her son has been missing, hoping that people can help her get some answers. And they don't really have much of a lead. So what I like about this one is you are flashing between like current day and also the main character's childhood and some things that she had to go through growing up. You learn that she is an avid, or she was at least an avid sleepwalker. This also takes place in Savannah, Georgia, which is a cool kind of like swamp, like kind of vibe. I forget the exact word. Marsh, that's what I'm looking for. More of like a marsh type vibe. So it's pretty cool. You're kind of hopping back and forth between that. And I do really like when thrillers, this is a thriller like mystery. I would say more of a mystery. I don't know. Kind of both go hand in hand, I guess. But it's really, I really recommend it if you like fast-paced reads. This moves super quick. It's pretty short. I read it in like 2 days. But it talks a lot about grief, about mental illness, and like trusting yourself. Like, how do you trust yourself when you're not even sure like what you're doing, that sort of thing. I really like an unreliable narrator. Like, she doesn't know if she can trust her own actions because she's doing all this while she's not even coherent. So you're trying to figure out, like, there's a lot of layers to what's going on. And then she has a podcast host that offers to help her and like stays with her and does like interviews and things like that. There's a lot of corruption going on as well. And the ending is crazy in like a good way. I really liked the way it ended. There's lots of twists and turns. So if you want a great thriller, fast paced, I've heard her other books are really good. This is the first I've read from her, but definitely check that out if you like a good twisty thriller. So next I'm going to be using Essence, another Essence product, Pure Nude Highlighter. This is a really nice natural highlight for just like a little glow. I've used so many of these. I've used this for a very long time. And then I'm gonna finish up with this other Alamar Cosmetics brush. I really recommend their brushes as well. It's super high quality. And I'm just gonna tap around in there and I'm gonna hit the high points of my face. Alrighty, now that that is applied, I'm going to finish everything off with my face with just this Mario Badescu spray. I love these sprays. It's super refreshing. This is the Aloe Herbs and Rosewater one. I love that. It just feels so nice. Alrighty, so we're gonna do some eyeshadow. I'm gonna do a little bit of fun green eyeshadow today, I think. Love green eyeshadow. Haven't done eyeshadow in a while, so we're just gonna see how it goes. The two palettes I'm gonna use today are the ColourPop Mandalorian palette, which I love this little one. And I broke one of the eyeshadows, so ignore that. I'm gonna use that one. And then I'm also gonna use the BH Cosmetics Take Me Back to Brazil palette, which has a ton of fun colors if you ever want to play around. This is the palette you should use. So I'm probably just gonna speed through this part because I feel like with eyeshadow, I just kind of make it up as I go along, to be honest. I usually like to start with like a big fluffy brush with like the lighter color and run that around in my crease. And then just progressively get darker, go towards the outer corner. I'm gonna try to scoot you up so you can kind of see what I'm doing better. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. Yay! Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and go in with my glittery shade I'm gonna use. I'm using the NYX Glitter Glue or Glitter Primer, which I stand by and I love so much. I just take a tiny, tiny bit. You don't need a lot at all. And I highly recommend this to help your glitter really like shine, and any shimmery shade that you put on really sticks to it well. I just put it on the very inside, like right here with my finger. I just feel like that works the best. And then I go right on top with, I'm gonna use this shimmery green right here in this palette. It is called Sipping Soup. I love that, that's adorable. Speaking of, The Mandalorian, which is what this palette is, I've been watching the new season. I gotta be honest, this season's not going as, oh, look how pretty that shade is. It's going a little bit slower than previous seasons, so I'm hoping it picks up soon. I just feel like it's taking a little longer to get to the points, but we'll see. I'm not giving up on it yet. I love Pedro Pascal, which again, Last of Us is over, but again, totally recommend it. Is one of the best stories I've ever been a part of or witnessed, because I love the game and I love the show as well. And I do also have a podcast where we break down every single episode and talk about it and compare it to the game and just analyze it in general. And it's called Clicker Bait. and it is in the link in my bio, or the link underneath this video if you want to check it out. I would love if you did. If you loved the show, I hope you like the podcast, because we talk a lot about each individual episode and what we like. But anyways, back to books. The next favorite of mine from the past couple months is gonna have to be A Head Full of Ghost by Paul Tremblay. Now this one is a wild ride. It's giving very much like The Exorcist. Like, it's very scary. I don't recommend this one if you don't like scary stuff. But if you love scary movies and you like scary books, you will love this book. I listened to the audiobook on this one and it did not disappoint. It was very creepy. It's very fast paced again, like the other thriller I mentioned. This one's definitely horror, I would say. But it's very good. It's essentially I really like books where you're not sure if it's like mental illness or a demon, basically, or like Paranormal Activity. So I like books where it's like you're not really sure. I don't really know what that trope would be called. I'm not exactly sure what the term would be. I'm gonna go over it in the corner of my eye and like a little bit on the lid with a brighter shimmery shade. But yeah, basically you're following this girl who, her sister, they believe has been possessed, and you are kind of following her journey of like, she's young. It goes back and forth between her being super young and them actually going through it, and then her being a little bit older and like essentially being interviewed about it from someone who's doing like a documentary or some sort of like book documentary blog, like something like that. So you're following it actually happening, and then you're also following a TV crew. They hire a TV crew to document essentially her exorcism, her sister's exorcism. It's very creepy. It's very shocking. So you need to be in the right mental headspace for it. This is all I'm saying. But it was so good. It did exactly what I wanted. As far as like the shock value, it really felt like I was watching a scary movie. Definitely recommend if you want something super spooky. It would have been really good to read this around Halloween time, but I loved it. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I will say the only thing is like some of it was a little bit far-fetched, and like the ending could have been done a little bit better, but I still enjoyed it. It was still fun. Speaking of fun, I actually finished a book today before I started filming called The Dead Romantics. This one was super good, and I normally don't read romance. Like, this is categorized as a romance and then as a contemporary novel, and I do like the contemporary genre. The contemporary genre is kind of like very broad, I guess you could say. Like, a lot of different things I feel like can fall under the contemporary category. But this one was really good. It essentially, it is a romance, definitely, but it covers a lot of different stuff. It covers like grief, like loss of a family member. She can also, our main character can see ghosts, which is super cool. You may have gathered that I'm a fan of paranormal things. I think it's very fascinating and interesting. And I think it can go multiple different ways when you're reading it in a book. Like, it can either be super cheesy or it can be really cool. This one was a little, like, definitely you can get the romance cheesy vibes for sure. But to me, it was so short and done so well that, like, I feel like it did it right. I feel like it really achieved what it wanted to achieve. But essentially, you're following Florence, who just lost her dad, and she's also an author. I also love books about books or books about writing. So she's an author, and she ghostwrites for a famous author who's like elderly and like going through some stuff. So she needs her to fill in and ghostwrite, and she's like super famous. So she has to be like secretive about that. And then she meets her new editor, who's super cute, and like she's attracted to him. But I don't want to give any more away because like it is kind of a surprise. I don't remember what I was on like the actual back like synopsis. So, but it's really good. I really like the aspect of her being able to see ghosts and like talk to ghosts. and she like helps them pass on. There's also like a subplot where when she was a kid, she helped solve a murder with a ghost, which I kind of want a whole book about that, to be honest. If you guys have any recommendations that are like that, let me know, because that's so cool. But yeah, that was really good. It was a romance that I didn't think I was going to be super into, but I heard a lot of recommendations and it sounded fun, so I got it. And I don't regret it. I thought it was really nice. It definitely, again, cheesy vibes, but in a fun way. Alrighty, this is the finished look, guys, and I love it. I love green eyeshadow. I love just playing around with colors. And thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. We talked about our favorite books right now. I showed you guys my current favorite makeup. Just what I put on my face is what I've been using currently the most. I'll probably make a separate video showing you guys my favorite skincare and going into a little bit more detail about that. I have a vlog, another vlog coming soon, diving into some other things I've been doing. And thank you guys. Yeah, let me know your favorite book that you've read this year so far. I mainly just did like the highlights. I've read a lot of great books this year, and I just wanted to kind of touch on a couple of those with you guys. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not already, and we'll see you next time. Bye.